Mentally and physically, success could be defined as getting up one more time after you've been knocked down over and over and over again. I'm T.Wood, and this is Triumphant Moments, where I highlight significant moments in life that are far beyond the surface to inform, encourage, and inspire people to triumph over their life's challenges. With me, I said with me today, I have Miss Angeles Echols-Brown. She was born in Memphis, Tennessee. She
Yes.
holds a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with an emphasis in child development from Cornell University. She's passionate for the arts and for teaching. She is the creator of Educating Young Minds, a nonprofit organization that provides supplemental education and counseling services that aims to reach at-risk children and their families, channeling their energies toward achieving excellence. In addition, she is a loving wife. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let's get this bad boy started here. Now, before we, I guess, dive right on into it.
Yes.
Now, I know you got a lot of stuff that you may do from day to day. Do you have a specific certain routine in the mornings? Is it coffee? Is it a spiritual workouts?
First, of course, I go to God. I lie in bed saying thank you. I wake up and I'm grateful, first of all, for being on this other side. I'm grateful in terms of being here in life. I make certain that all the dots are taken care of and the T's are crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Make calls, talk with my husband. Sometimes when I'm meeting like this or talking with parents and kids,
Right.
I make certain all of the gadgets are shut down so I can give my attention, because the phone will ring. I turn I keep the television off. But number one is I'm a little spoiled. I get breakfast in bed every morning. My husband,
Ooh.
every morning I get breakfast, and I've been married for over 14 years. I get breakfast in bed every morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the gadgets. As a matter of fact, speaking of gadgets,
Yes, ma'am.
you know something, I want to make certain nothing is on around here. So if something rings, I apologize.
You're good. You're good.
I'm okay. Excellent. So if something rings, please dismiss. I just thought about that.
No, you're good to go.
We're okay. Okay. Because if it rings, I don't want to. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, I'm happy.
Right.
Can you imagine? And I want that for the world. I want that for my children. I want that for our community. I want that for other women who have gone through what I've gone through and to come out on the other side with this kind of grace. I am just appreciative. I'm grateful. The circle around me. And I am just excited about life.
Because I actually wanted to point in just approaching this in angles here. If I want you to take a second just to think, we're gonna go back in time a little bit, just a little bit, okay? Just maybe a few years ago, let's describe your upbringing. All right. So when you think about it, how would you describe you growing up in your household in Memphis, Tennessee? Were there siblings?
I was the oldest.
Okay.
I'm the oldest daughter.
Okay.
And when I became an adult, I have two sisters. One has transitioned.
Okay.
Single parent, government cheese in the projects.
What you know about it?
The railroad track. Don't get me started.
Uh-oh.
My mother worked jobs from taking care of the other person's babies. We won't go into that, but we know what that is.
Yes, ma'am.
Caring for the other families.
Yes, ma'am.
And then getting home to us around 6:30, 7 o'clock. She then also had another job. She was a seamstress. They would quilt. Back then, they were hand quilting the mattresses.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did that
mm,
for a living. I remember it being cold,
mm,
and I was in elementary school,
mm.
and it was so cold. Um, she was afraid my feet, so she begged me not to go to school. She said, "Baby, don't go to school today. It is just too cold," because I had to walk about a quarter of a mile. And she said, "Baby, please don't go. You're gonna stay home today. Mama gonna go to work. I'm gonna have the neighbor watch out for you, but you can't go today, right?" And I cried because I wanted to go to school. That was life. That was, friends, relationships, learning to socialize and bond. And I wanted to go to school. So I cried and I begged her. She took a piece of cardboard and she put it in them in the soles of my shoes.
Mm.
She took her socks off. I had some socks on. She took hers off. She had some very thick ones because she had to walk far to the bus stop.
Mm.
And she put them on my feet. And she wrapped my feet with that and put me in some larger shoes. But she wrapped my feet. She wrapped my hands. She took shoestrings. She put layers of socks on my hands, and then she tied it with the shoestrings. And she tied my hands. She tied my feet. She wrapped me and bundled me in socks and rags.
Mm.
And she went to work. And she packaged her feet, but she came back and two of her toes
Mm.
had frozen. She worked hard. I did not understand and respect the love she had for us
Sacrifice.
until I was an adult.
Right. Mm.
I did not realize the power this woman carried until I was an adult.
Mm.
Being home, getting into the house by 8 o'clock before it was night,
Right.
dating. And she would always say, "Don't bring me no babies because mama can't help you take care of them. You
Mm.
got to get your education.
Yes, ma'am.
Education is the way out of poverty." And so that was her mantra. That and church, Bible school, Sunday school, you name it. She used to teach. She would teach Sunday school, and she kept us in the church, and she kept us in community programs.
So it's safe to say that spirituality or your religion is one of your strengths. Would you
It
say that?
is number one.
Okay.
Number one. I even tell my husband, I say, I love you, right? But Jesus is first. I said, I love you. I do love you much. But I just, I can't, I just, I've gone through so much. I've experienced so much. And every time it would look as if the door was closing and I couldn't get to the next level, something would happen to empower me.
It's
And it happened all my life. It's
I,
happened.
I want to see, which brings me, and I gotta make sure all the listeners and the viewers and the followers understand, which brings me to the very point as to why I had to have you on the show because of who you are, what you represent, and just your internal compass in general. Now, you majored in psychology
Yes.
with an emphasis in child development. Now, what
Yes.
motivated you to attend Cornell University? Now, you had that's making a jump here from
Okay.
Memphis, Tennessee
Yes.
to New York.
Yes. My
So
first
what?
ride on an airplane. Yes.
Okay, okay. So what motivated you to attend Cornell University?
I applied to 19 colleges.
Okay.
I got into all of them. The one that I wanted that I didn't get into was Radcliffe.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I wanted to go to Radcliffe at the time, but it's the girls' division of Harvard, as you know.
Right.
Okay. And so I have an aunt that at the time, she was my mentor, and she was attending. She was
Mm.
there. As a matter of fact, we both families. It's my father's mother, and we all lived in the projects. But she went to Cornell,
Mm.
and I so looked up to her and admired her.
Right.
And I followed her, and also they gave me a full ride. A full. Let's be honest. Let's keep it real.
Can't miss that out now.
But I got a full ride, and just was very excited. And I remember the history of Cornell. There was a period where Willard Straight, the wall at Cornell said, "Niggers go home." So when you walked onto the campus, you could see that. Now that was, of course, before my time, but I understand. I know that history and the Willard Straight takeover, and so, but I remembered that picture. Niggas go home, and I was like, "Oh yes, this is the perfect place for me." I was like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm going to come in and put my stamp here." Oh yes, you know. So that challenge was quite exciting, and I absolutely fell in love with Cornell. I made some relationships I have today that are incredible, that have been instrumental in moving EYM. Um, and that's it's nothing but God, nothing but faith.
Now, if please correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've been a performer yourself, as well as directed and produced
Yeah,
musicals and choirs.
yeah.
What inspired you, like your interest in the arts? What inspired that?
When I was in Memphis, growing up in Memphis, I was 6 feet tall, and I must have weighed 99 pounds. I was tall and thin and lanky, and the boys used to tease me. Um, the young people who were my age did not want to befriend me.
Mm,
Um, I ended up being really attracted to the older group,
mm,
the seniors. So when I was in the ninth grade, I would just tag along with the seniors if they'd let me. And
mm,
there were a couple of people there in particular, and one who just absolutely has my heart. Her name is Adrian, but a Broadway performer, just an incredible talent. But we went to high school together, and there were a couple of. She wasn't the only one, but there were a couple of them, and she's one that sticks out at the forefront.
okay.
But I would hang around them, and they would just always be kind to me. They were always kind. They were very um, encouraging, and they would allow me to hang on. And I started performing with a group called An Evening of Soul. I owe so much to that group.
Mm,
Um, and I would just be one of the background performers, and I fell in love with it. And I did that, and it helped me. So I would study my math and do my work at high school and school, and then I would go and rehearse and be with that study with that group. My mother trusted them. They would get me home on time, care for me. So I'll never forget that, and just the love that they gave. Um, to this very day, I have relationships with them. So I fell in love with the arts through that organization. And they were doing it, I believe, out of Memphis State at the time. There was an affiliation with Memphis State. And I am very appreciative to that group. So I then performed, and I even went to graduate school in fine arts. That summer, I went to New York with my girlfriend, with a friend, and I auditioned for a play, an off Broadway play. And I didn't think I would get it, but I got it.
come on.
I got the role.
Wow.
And I started performing in New York. I started traveling, doing bus and truck. So when I wasn't traveling, I was teaching. I was tutoring on the side. And I balanced those two. Um, and I received a call to do a pilot and to do a movie here in California. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's it. I'm getting ready to be this star. I'm
Take
getting
off.
ready to do A, B, C, D. I'm getting ready to rock, right?
Right.
So I take my little 2 bags and my $2, and I get my plane fare, and I head to New York. I did the pilot. I also did the movie. It was with I did this movie, and then some others came. And I before I knew it, the only roles I could get here in California were as jailbirds or I was a jailbird or a prostitute, or I was playing some, given my physical physique
Right.
and my look as opposed to my talent.
Mm,
And I became disheartened. I became not frustrated. My friends, the others were doing very well, but
mm,
every time I thought I would get so close and that God was opening that artistic door, it would shut. And it was happening too many times. I would get to a point and something would stop it. I'd get to a point, something would stop it. And I said, okay, God, we've got to talk. If this is not for me, please let me know.
Here we go.
If this is not the path I am to take, please just give me a sign.
I can sit here and think about all the challenges that I faced in my life. But for you, if you were to take a moment right now and think about all the challenges that you faced in your life, including those things that happened and you still just found a way to just cope with it and continue to press on,
Yes, sir.
what would be one of those moments in your life that stands out that you had to overcome or continue to find a way to press forward?
That's a heavy one. Um, I would say it would be the relationship and the decision I had to make when I was transitioning here in Los Angeles. Um, I started work. I had low levels of self-esteem and didn't know it.
Hmm.
I didn't know it. I couldn't define it at the time.
Hmm.
And I absolutely was disappointed in myself
Okay.
because I hadn't achieved those things that I thought I would coming from Tennessee. Because I thought I would then leave Cornell and I would just conquer the world.
Right.
I would save the world. I just knew I could do that.
Right.
And I started tutoring. I transitioned from homeless, and my friend from Cornell gave me a place to stay for 6 months. I moved into a little apartment later down the street from a school, Lutheran, that I was teaching. That transition from Lutheran school um, to from her home to that apartment and working at the Lutheran school
Right.
was was challenging because my life was changing at the time, and I had not matured to a point where I could identify it at the time, that I knew what was going on. Moving into the apartment and working with the children there. I had two children. I had $50 and two children
Hmm.
so I would teach, audition, and then go into my apartment, and they would come to my home after school. So after school, between 3:30 and 9 o'clock at night, it grew from two children to 5 to 10 to 16 children studying
Wow.
in my apartment.
Wow.
I was doing that, teaching from 8 to 3 and still trying to audition.
Wow.
And I trying to balance that. And the needs of the children just grew and grew. Some would come and be hungry. So I would go and buy the chicken franks and cut them up and put ketchup in them, and I would feed my babies.
Hmm.
I would be teaching and tutoring algebra and reading and phonics and trying to teach them how to think three-dimensional, not to be afraid of math.
Hmm.
And then I would make a meal. They loved my cheese toast. I can do all kinds of things with 99 cents chicken franks,
Creativity.
with different pastas.
Hmm.
And the parents would give me anywhere from $5 to $20 a month. The kids on average would be with me 3.5 hours a night.
Wow.
3.5 hours averaged a night. The last child would leave at 9 p.m. One Christmas. So I was doing that for the first 7 years. And one Christmas, my parents got together and said, we are not going to leave you in Los Angeles for the holidays by yourself. They put enough money together and they got me a plane ticket to Memphis, Tennessee.
Hmm.
I went home. I celebrated in Memphis. So I didn't, because the previous 2 years I spent Christmas by myself, and they knew that I was there because they invited me to their homes. They bought me food.
Come on now.
So I went to Memphis. On that flight, I got bumped to first class because now remember, I'm still trying to look like a superstar.
Right.
So I'm all made up, the hair is flowing, and So I got bumped to first class and sat next to a man. Um, and we started talking, and he wanted to know what I did. And I told him, well, I basically teach English, math, reading comprehension, da 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 da. Right? He
Right.
said, no way. I said, yeah. He gave me a math problem. I did the problem. He said, okay, you are a teacher.
Mm.
And I said, yes. So we started talking. To make a long story short, 3 months later, he was in Los Angeles. He saw the kids studying in my bathroom, in the tub, with a pillow, on my bed, on the floor, in the little living room area, on the balcony. He
Wow.
saw that. He saw 12 kids, I'll never forget it, studying throughout my apartment. And
Mm.
he gave me the money to transition, to get a building on 6th Street.
It is amazing how we seem to or tend to underestimate, the form in which something positive or a blessing or favor, as I call it, may happen in your life. And it doesn't always most likely come in the way that you expect it to come.
Yes, sir. That's
That's what's
right.
interesting to me. Now,
That's right.
Mrs. Eccles, I here's my thing. I truly believe when we desire to do something, we'll do it for a little while.
Mhm.
Now, when you enjoy it, it might last 10 years or, something of that sort. But when it comes to decades, it becomes something else. What comes to mind when you think about how you've found a way to successfully help young people since the late 80s? That's more than just enjoying to do something. That's like a passion. What comes to mind when you think about how long you've been effective in the youth's lives with your organization?
I think one of the things we forget, we all have a calling. I believe with all of my heart, this was my mission. This was my purpose. I talk all the time, sometimes in my lectures, about having a purposeful life, a life of intent. Um, and when the signs, when it's there in front of you, you either look at it and face it or you walk away. I chose to face it. And not that, okay, it may not be something that I deep in my heart wanted to do. No, I did not go to Cornell to become a teacher. Let me make that clear. Did not, did not. But that was exactly where I was supposed to be because that is what I was supposed to become. And we think we have that power and control. And we don't. We don't. We think we're in control.
Come on.
No, I can tell you. Now, when you do have that control, it's when you're given a mission, it's put in front of you, and there are things you're supposed to leave behind because not everybody and everything is supposed to come with you.
Ooh.
You are supposed to move forward. But what do you do? Now, if you move forward and you're listening, you're moving forward on your mission and your calling.
Yes, ma'am.
You stop, look back, and reach to the side and start pulling people and things with you or something else with you. Then that's when you think you're in control and you're doing it.
Mm,
But you're not. You're
mm,
not. You've just made a decision to move in another direction, but not necessarily a direction of your calling. And
mm.
that is, I can't tell you how many people I run into who are financially successful,
Right.
financially have just living the life,
Uh-oh.
and who are miserable,
You didn't say that.
just miserable, unhappy, just who are in jobs and who are doing things that just it's so sad. And one of the things I say to them is this: you have the ability to make a change.
Mm.
You have that. You've been given that wisdom. You have that. Now the choices you make, that's on you.
That's on you.
That's on you. Um, One of the things that's why it's so important to me in terms of what's happening with our children in education right now. there are so many opportunities, but they're not having these conversations in their homes
Mm,
because their parents didn't have them.
mm,
So the jobs, the possibilities, my children who want to go and become MDs, and the possibility of that happen, only 2% of them make that particular title. And I'll say, well, you can become what is it, anesthesiologist,
yes, ma'am.
and in some cases make more money
Yes, ma'am.
and have and need less medical school.
Mm. Miss
Yeah,
Eccles, you
it's but
go ahead.
how do we share this? How do
Right.
we have these conversations? All the boys, everybody wants to be LeBron James.
Mm,
Okay, well, why not be his manager, an
mm,
agent?
come
Why
on now.
not become an entrepreneur in that field?
Mm,
Why not develop software that'll help teach these cats how to shoot?
get him, Miss Eccles.
You
Get
know,
him.
develop apps. There are the possibilities, but they've got to have the conversations in the homes,
Wow.
and it's not happening.
Mrs. Eccles, I, I knew you was gonna drop some jewels. I knew you was gonna do it. Listen, um, I tell you what, as far as your organization and things of that sort, and in general with you, are there any websites, any social medias, anything like that that people can go to either, what if they wanted to participate or do something to assist the organization or just follow you in general? Is there any websites or anything like that?
Okay, so there are a couple of things. We have a website. It's Educating Young Minds, educatingyoungminds.org. That's first. Um, and also, what you'll eventually see on the website, what I was referring to in terms of these conversations with kids
Mhm.
are industry skill sets.
Mm.
And also availability, kids having access to tools.
Yes, ma'am.
And so my goal right now is to develop a national hotline where kids from Mississippi to New York, the projects of New York to the woods of Mississippi, they can call in and get help. There's so many children in these homes taking care of the kids while the parents are working. I want them to have access to academic support and behavioral mental support, encouragement.
Gotcha.
And so we're working on developing this national hotline platform where
Mhm.
kids can call in and get support. Hopefully that'll be up and running. And we're talking 14 hours a day.
Mhm.
So within 14 hours, you can call from anywhere. A
Mhm.
child can call in. So hopefully that'll be up. Our goal is 6 months. In terms of support, that is what we're working on right now in terms of getting the financial support, because I want to pay teachers, because I
Right.
want people who can teach, who are comfortable with my target group, will
Yes, ma'am.
not be intimidated by a 16-year-old who cannot read.
Go.
You understand? Who can talk to that child and make that child feel respected and
Yes, ma'am.
loved with grace, not judge, not blame, and not wonder, well, why is it you can't? No, I don't care why you can't. Let's
Yes,
make sure you learn how to. No, I don't want to hear the drama. No,
there we go.
let's fix the problem.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
in some cases, in terms of mentoring, you may need to go back and get some help, and then channeling them to the resources in their community where they
Right.
can get that help.
Right. And if I heard you right, there is a website for the organization.
Yes, there's a website and a phone. Let me give you the phone number. I don't mind if that's okay.
Yes,
Three two
absolutely.
three 840 3556. Again, 323-840-3556. And you can call, try to reach me. In terms of support, of course, you need support. I was up late last night writing grants.
Come on.
Um, but the important thing, I think, is our coming together and moving these children and moving and empowering our community and working with lives. And we're trying to teach diversity. We're trying to teach our kids how to network. We're trying to teach them how to become Mr. Terrence's, how to do what you do, the way you do that, and do that with pride and dignity and grace,
Thank
and
you.
still be a young Black man, a man of color,
Thank
and
you.
wear that proudly.
Absolutely.
How do you do that and teach that diversity, given Black Lives Matter,
Mm.
without appearing to be anti Black Lives Matter,
Mm.
without appearing to be anti Black Lives Matter?
Mm.
That balance,
Yeah.
and that's what's missing in the media,
Yes, ma'am.
in marketing. And look, it's a balance. It's a balance.
Yes, ma'am.
We all need one another.
I tell you what, this is thing that I've pushed and created. I call it encouragement for free. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Thinking about everything that we've talked about right now, and then you think about your upbringing, or you think about just things that you might have experienced in your adult life.
Yes,
Out of
sir.
everything that you might have seen, touched, experienced in your life, what is some encouragement for free right now that you could provide to all the listeners and the followers of the show? What would it be?
Stay in prayer. Number one,
Mm,
never giving up or giving in. And number two, learn how to nurture relationships.
mm,
Learn how to nurture relationships, families, friends, even enemies. Nurture relationships.
wow.
Nurture them, because you will grow with them.
Mm,
It will empower you. It'll sustain you. Those two things. Um, yes, I would say prayer and nurturing. Learning to nurture, learning to forgive. Because within that nurturing, you know what you're doing? You know what you must do in nurturing? You must listen. So that means you got to be still.
mm.
You got to listen, because you got to hear what the other one is saying. You must listen. Then you must forgive. You have to forgive. You have to forgive. You've got to forgive to keep it moving forward. And the forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about yourself.
Mrs.
You,
Eccles.
I'm sorry, did I?
No, no, ma'am.
And
Good
then
gracious.
the third one, would be believe in your own abilities. I don't care what it is. Believe in yourself and your own abilities. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, what you can't do. Let me share this with you. When I first came to Los Angeles, there was a man. I do not know him. I do not know his name, but I thank him for teaching me grace. And this is a white man, Caucasian man, in a yellow sports car. He has a yellow Jaguar. I don't know his name, where he lives, who he is, or what he does. And I met him over 25 years ago? I was driving on Hollywood Boulevard, and I had paralleled my car to move into a parking space. He swooped in behind me and took that space, even though he saw me trying to park. He moved into that space and took my space. I was so infuriated. I got out of that car. I was like, how dare you disrespect me like that? How dare you do that? That was my space, and you know that. He got out of his car. He stood up and he looked at me and he said, so what are you going to do? Go and burn your house down in your neighborhood because you're pissed at me? He said that to me. He said, okay, you upset. So what you going to do? You going to go in your neighborhood and burn your house down, and burn your stores down, and tear up your neighborhood because you pissed at me?
He just said a lot.
Because I didn't do something that you agreed with? Okay, so it was wrong. So what you going to do? And then he walked away. I could not say a word. I don't know who this man is, but I thank him. I love him. He's the bomb. He is awesome. I hope he continues to do that, because I learned. I went home and I sat still and I thought about what that man said and what was happening in our communities. because this was also around the race riots, the burning of South Central. But
Business.
this is what that man said to me. And I said, this is the picture we are painting. You know, God gives us a canvas, and he gives us a slate of oils. Now, the oils we select to use to paint that picture that'll define us, that's our choice. He gave us the tools. He gave me that canvas, and he gave me the oils. But I select the oils in terms of what's on that canvas and what I want someone else to see.
Come on.
What I want someone else to see. I paint that picture. We painted that picture of what that man saw. And I'm not talking, we're trying to rationale right or wrong or the reasons. That isn't what this is about.
No.
Because that's another conversation.
It is.
I'm simply talking about the pictures we paint and how we are seen. And we can no longer continue just to keep blaming others, the families, the way we grew up, poverty. That's what we've gone through, and that's real. Now, how do we deal with it?
Ooh.
How do we deal with it? That's my thing. How do we deal with it? How do we adjust?
Come on, y'all.
Because how do we adjust? And that's my mission. Getting that message out and doing it with class, grace, style, and have a great time doing it. And also try to look good, you know. Try to look good when you're doing it, you know, because that's sort of more motivating as well, you know.
Mrs. Echols, first and foremost, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but you know, I greatly appreciate you, number one, being willing to come on to my show and be willing to take out time in your day to reach out, express true feelings, true thoughts, true experiences in efforts to motivate others that you've never met, may never meet. I thank you.
You are so welcome. You know, I'll tell you this. My heart is so full, so full. Just young people who are now in their late 20s, who are in their 30s, that are doctors and lawyers. That one of them, remember I told you I started with 2 children? One of them got her MD from Keck, from USC Medical School, her Ph.D. and her MD. The other is an officer. Recently, the Black alumni led by the president, just an incredible young man. He's an attorney, Mr. Nelson. They did a golf tournament fundraiser for EYM.
Awesome.
And we had nothing to do with it. The board, they did it all on their own.
Awesome.
Do you know how uplifting that is?
Awesome.
Do you know how that makes me feel? When these wonderful, articulate, handsome, fabulous young people are saying, we want to give back and do for others, Miss Echols, given what you did for us, what you did for me. I am just, as I said, I'm very, very happy. Happy and excited about life.
To the Triumph Amongst the T.Wood family, look, as I've said before, I'll say it again. Sometimes in life, you must fail in order to succeed.
Yes.
But one thing must stay certain, that you never, under any circumstances, ever give up.
That's right.
I'm T.Wood, and
That's
I'm
right.
with the great Mrs. Angeles Echols-Brown.
Bye,
Love
everybody. I loved it. Bye-bye.